Today we are heading right to the southern tip of Manhattan, to a place that was literally built on a wall and grew into the command center of global finance. But there's another story happening in the financial district right now, one that's turning it from a 9-to-5 powerhouse into a real 24/7 neighborhood. So let's dive into the real story of Fiddy.
To really get a feel for Fiddy, you've got to picture this. You're walking down these tight streets, and the skyscrapers are just soaring above you. They form what someone perfectly called breathtaking artificial canyons. It's this incredible place where centuries of history and super modern life just smash into each other on every single corner.
Okay, first things first, we gotta clear something up. A lot of people use Wall Street and the financial district like they're the same thing, but they're really not. Wall Street, that's the famous 8-block street, the symbol for the whole financial market. But Fiddy, that's the entire neighborhood. It's a living, breathing community with parks, museums, and thousands of people who actually call it home. So how does a place like this even happen? I mean, how did it go from just a remote patch of land to a global hub? Well, our story kicks off way back in the 17th century with a tiny Dutch trading post called New Amsterdam. This is literally where the foundations of modern New York were first laid down.
And get this, the name Wall Street? It's not just some cool, powerful-sounding metaphor. Nope, it's literal. Before it was ever called Wall Street, the Dutch called it Het Singel, which translates to the belt. Why? Well, because there was an actual wall there.
So, Director General Peter Stuyvesant ordered the construction of De Wall. Picture this, a 15-foot-high wooden fence. It marked the absolute northern edge of their little settlement. And its job was simple, keep people out. It was all about defense, protecting the early colonists from attacks.
The speed at which this little corner of the world changed is just mind-blowing. In less than 150 years, it went from a walled-off outpost to the political and financial heart of a brand new country. The wall came down because the city outgrew it. The first U.S. president took his oath of office right there. And just 3 years after that, the New York Stock Exchange was born. What an incredible transformation.
Okay, so the foundations of a nation are set. Now what? Well, now they start building up. This is when those famous canyons get created, along with the powerful institutions that would go on to shape the American economy for centuries.
You can feel the ambition of that era literally carved into the stone of the district's buildings. The architecture is pure Gilded Age, a time of insane wealth and industry. You can see it everywhere, in the fancy, elaborate facades and those sleek, elegant lines of the Art Deco skyscrapers that still make up the skyline today.
These addresses weren't just buildings. They became legends. 23 Wall Street, JP Morgan's headquarters, was so powerful it was just known as the corner. And 40 Wall Street, for one brief, glorious moment, was the tallest building in the entire world. These places were basically giant stone declarations of financial power.
And of course, right at the heart of it all is the New York Stock Exchange. It's pretty wild to think that this massive global institution got its start with just a simple handshake deal between 24 stockbrokers. They literally gathered under a buttonwood tree to create a market people could actually trust.
The writer John Brooks just nailed it when he described the district's power back in the early 20th century. He called it the precise center, geographical and metaphorical, of financial America and the financial world. Yeah, that about sums it up. At its peak, every financial road in the world led right here.
But here's where the story takes a really interesting turn. It doesn't end with banking and trading. Not at all. Over the last few decades, Fiddy has been completely reinventing itself, again, transforming from that 9-to-5 business zone into a lively, around-the-clock neighborhood.
And if you need proof, just look at this number. As of 2020, over 36,000 people call the financial district home. Think about that. An area that used to be a ghost town after 5 p.m. is now a bustling community with people living way up high in those famous canyons.
And when people move in, life follows. Now, the streets aren't just for traders. They're packed with tourists and locals checking out a history that's very much alive. You can stand in the quiet grounds of Trinity Church feeling the centuries of history, and then, just minutes later, be at the super buzzy, revitalized South Street Seaport. The famous Charging Bull is a huge draw, and Broadway's Canyon of Heroes isn't just for parades anymore. It's the main street of a totally unique neighborhood.
Okay, so you've got all of this stuff packed into just over 1 square mile. So, how in the world do you get around? Well, just navigating Fiddy's maze of streets is an experience all by itself.
So, forget the neat grid you see in the rest of Manhattan. Feidi's layout is a throwback to its colonial past. We're talking narrow, winding streets full of surprises. It's an awesome place to just wander around on foot, especially since a lot of those old lanes are now for pedestrians only. But it's also a huge transit hub, with tons of subway lines and ferry terminals that can get you pretty much anywhere you need to go.
Which brings us to this really fascinating question about where Feidi goes from here. As it keeps shifting from this financial behemoth into a real residential community, how does it manage that balancing act? Between the incredible weight of its history and all the demands of a modern living city. The next chapter for this iconic neighborhood is being written as we speak.